Hey, what's up? It's Comic 95, the Savior, and this is going to be a Rand's Japanese journal. I kind of just want to rant to you guys about something that I saw recently in the news, and this really goes back into the whole idea of my YouTube channel. So I've stressed this so many times. It's been a while since I uploaded the video. As always, new people have subscribed to my channel. Welcome to my community. I want to talk about something that I've never really made a full video on this, and I don't really want it to, I guess, be just about one thing, but naturally it's kind of going to go all over the place although it might mostly stay with that topic. So before I get any further, I want to clarify a few things to you. For starts, as always, Captain Obvious, nothing ever applies to everyone. There's always exceptions to every rule. Everyone is not bad. My goal is not to stereotype, generalize whatever people, but we also have to be realistic with ourselves. There are some general ideas. There are some things that people do think collectively as a whole based on where they are from. That's just facts. And I feel like the avoidance of talking about stuff like that is problematic. And this is really a big issue that I have, as I've commented on these people so many times, but this is why I absolutely cannot stand people who leave comments on my videos in particular that have that same type of mindset. And I really hate it when I see it from my own race, Black people, because I know, or at least I hope, that they don't mean to, be that kind of person. But by, how can I say, by saying that or thinking that way, sharing that that's how they think, you're no different and no better than basically a racist white or racist Japanese person. So now that I've confused you enough, my title should have kind of given you some insight. My point is, I want to talk about why white people like Japan so much. And as I already stated earlier, this is not about every white person. I'm talking about a specific group of people. And they're going to be angry at me saying this, but it's true. I'm talking about the conservative, middle-aged, Trump-supporting people, as well as the people that maybe you don't necessarily, maybe you're not really a hardcore, Trump supporter, or you're not a Republican, you're not conservative, whatever, but your ideas, your mindset is in line with people who are. Thus, there's no difference. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not one of those people who avoid people or can't have open discussions because we have different political beliefs or we feel differently on certain topics. That's not my issue. But my problem is I notice there's some similarities that these people that do, support these things and do like these things that they have in common with people who are racist and people who are prejudiced and people who do, have this mindset to themselves, so to speak. So anyway, I feel so weird, part of my, okay, that's better. At least you can see a little more of my, I'm gonna move my table over. I don't like just the corner being shown. Okay, I'm weird. Okay, back on subject. So, getting carried off, like 2 minutes into the video, I really was really disturbed by a news article that came out, and it was talking about dual citizenship in Japan. And I won't lie, I have very mixed feelings on this topic. But at the end of the day, the more I think about it, the more research that I do, especially when I think about the fact that I am going to have my own children here in Japan, and they will be both, biracial. And on top of that, they will also be, dual citizens, basically. I'm an American, and I have no intention of giving up my US citizenship. And my partner is Japanese. So as a child, I don't think anything of it because, they're with me, they're my kids. I just take them back to the US with myself. I'm legally responsible for them. And even if Japan didn't allow even babies to have dual citizenship, I don't have to worry about that. My country is not going to give me a hard time bringing children that I birthed back into my country. I know that won't be an issue. But when I think about how that would change for them as adults, that they will have to make that decision, is hard for me. And I think that for a lot of people, if you don't have children in Japan, like how I was ignorant to this at first myself, you don't think anything of this. You think that it's okay, like it makes sense. Why does somebody need more than one nationality? That's what I thought. I didn't even know that that was a thing until I came to Japan and I saw that, mixed race people. And I thought about, not that I thought about it, but I was told about it and I read about it and I kept seeing stuff about it. So I did more research into it. And I was like, I never thought about this. Of course, there's way more mixed race people in the US, but in my country, dual nationality is allowed. So I've never heard about this. It was never talked about. It was just a thing that existed and nobody really cared. And the reality is, in the US, I don't think, of course, there's a lot of people with it, but there's not so much talk because whether you love it or hate it, everybody, for the most part, kind of likes America, wants to be an American, wants to live in the US, and that is the sought after citizenship to have. So there's not normally a lot of crying and talk about giving up US citizenship, more so people want to obtain it. So I didn't know much about this as an American myself. I don't have to think about this, or didn't have to. And as I've gotten older and things have become more serious for me, naturally, this conversation has come up more, both with, my boyfriend, as well as with myself mentally in my head. Like, what do I plan to say to my kids? What do I want them to do? And of course, my natural reaction is I want my children to be US citizens if I have to choose one, because not just because, I'm the one that gave birth to them, my partner is equally their parent, but let's be real. If I were to get a divorce or anything were to happen, I would want to have custody of my children. But let's say when they're adults, okay, let's look at things from that perspective. There are way more opportunities for anyone, regardless of what race you are, in the US than there are in Japan. Sure, Japan has more opportunities for someone, especially someone of mixed, heritage, to do things like sports and to do, media things like modeling, acting, etc., which is great. And maybe that's the direction that my children want to go in. But I know that for the average regular person, America offers more money, it offers more stability with your life, everything else. The only flip side is, of course, in comparison to Japan, the US is like a war zone. But if you compare America to pretty much any other regular country, so to speak, developing countries, as they're called, or really even other first world countries, I don't see the US as being dangerous. It's all I've ever known. And again, it's a place that people literally die to get to on a daily basis. So it's very sought after. I would never think of giving up my US citizenship. So anyway, as a parent, I want my children to make their own decision. I will, of course, explain to them, their options of financial aid and credit and housing and real estate and all of these different things that are easier to obtain, more profitable in the US. And again, more opportunities, bigger country. It's a place that people would do anything to have citizenship for. I want to let them know, this is probably the better option for you. But I understand, raising my children in Japan, they will feel more at home here. This is what they've, always known. So naturally, I'm pretty sure that they will probably choose Japan, and that's their choice. I won't hold it against them. I won't hate them for it. I want them to make their own decision. And I understand that that's a hard situation. And it's something that, while I do understand mentally, kinda, I can never fully understand because I am not in that situation. I was born and raised in the US. I willingly chose to come to Japan. And I knew that my heart, even although I like living in Japan, it will always be with the US. I will always feel more connected to America. I will always prefer America over Japan when it comes to that type of situation. So, not to get too dragged off into myself, but rather to talk about the situation at hand. So, while of course the vast majority of foreigners in Japan are, for starts, Asian, not Japanese, but I'm talking about foreigners. They're other Asians. So people from South Asia, other Eastern Asian countries, etc. And second to that is, of course, Europeans. There's a very small percentage of Black people, both Black people from the US and from Africa and other, Caribbean-like islands. And with that said, American Blacks in particular do not make up a large percentage of people in Japan. And even within that percentage, the vast majority of them are actually on the US military base or whatever. So I don't really consider them as being in Japan. The world doesn't, because again, like when it comes to their address and shipping and buying things, etc., they're classified as being on American territory, which is also why even if they give birth or whatever, overseas, it's still considered to be, on American land, so to speak. So anyway, we're not going to get into that too much. I don't know all of the specifics to that, and this video is not about that. So that is not the takeaway. I'm not here to read your comments about it. Well, actually, you can get whatever. That's nice. Okay, don't care. My point in this video is more so to talk about the fact that I'm not speaking from a Black perspective. This is anybody who's not Japanese. This affects you. So, of course, naturally, when I went to the comments, there were mostly white people that were commenting, but there were, of course, some Black people too, and some people from Asia. And I couldn't help but notice that, of course, the one thing that everybody had in common that were completely for single, citizenship, all conveniently happened to be white people. And their comments weren't just, I'm in support of it, but it was backed up with racist remarks. So people saying things like, oh, I wish the US would do this too, and, you don't need dual citizenship, and talking about how much better Japan is, and that and the other. And it really just kills me. It's like, why are people so afraid of Japan being critiqued? Why are people afraid of racism being addressed? And the more I think about it, I understand it when I look at the type of people that are so anti, don't judge Japan, basically, so against Japan being judged or criticized. I noticed that it seems like Japan is some sort of like safe haven away from, reality, safe haven away from criticism, safe haven to be a racist, safe haven to be a nationalist. And for white people, especially older people that are out of touch with reality, I think inside their mind, they're too happy, they're too glad to be a token, they're so satisfied with that. They enjoy being able to speak, 2 sentences in Japanese or learn how to be fluent in Japanese. And they enjoy the attention that they get from, people here, being white and being, the ideal, person, so to speak, having white skin, light colored eyes, light colored hair, whatever type thing. And in their mind, this is heaven. They're treated like a minority without being treated like a minority. They're worshipped here. Whereas in the US, or really any other country that's finally starting to address the issues with racism and, whitewashing things and trying to, put white people on a pedestal and them being the standard of beauty. Not that it's necessarily changed, but being challenged about things that are inappropriate and wrong and, not fair, not equal, etc. They don't deal with any of that stuff here in Japan. In Japan, instead, that same stuff is happening here, except it's praised. Keep in mind, as I've said before, Asians are not minorities. We treat them like minorities in the US, but they're not. They're the majority. The majority of the world is Asian. That's just a fact. And especially when you go abroad, it's hard for you as an American, and even as a European, I would argue maybe the same, for you to change your mindset, especially as a Black person, because we're so used to them being included in the broad term people of color, which is why I never liked that term to begin with. It's too vague. It basically includes anyone that is not white. And that's overwhelming in my opinion. It makes things complex and complicated, especially when you consider the fact that they don't have the same challenges as a Black person. But that's for another video, another story. We're staying on topic. So yeah, like I was really, just really amazed, so to speak, when I was seeing that, because I connected the dots and I was like, for them, this is heaven. They don't have the experience of dealing with racism, feeling inferior, etc. So they enjoy this. They enjoy the backhanded compliments. They enjoy making fools out of themselves and clowning themselves in order to get, crackers from massa, which in this case is Japanese people, not other white people. For example, I can't tell you how many times I've worked with somebody that was white, normally someone older, in which they spoke Japanese that ran circles around me, but they enjoyed making fools out of themselves, both Americans and, British people and Australian people. So for example, they would allow their students to make fun of things about them, whether it be their weight or their personality or whatever the case happens to be, they like to poke fun at their country and at their culture. And I thought that it was so weird because from my experience being in the US, I always think of, white people as being, super patriotic, and if you say anything bad about the US, then, go back to your home country, go back to where you came from type thing. So I always thought that that was weird. Like, why do you all come to Japan and all of a sudden you have no issue with, Japanese people saying and believing prejudice and racist things about you? You embrace it, which I think is really, really odd. So to give a slight example of this, I worked with a white woman actually who was older. I think she looked like she was in her 50s, but she was actually in her late 30s. You want to say her name? Catherine, at my last job. And they were doing a project for what they call International Children's Festival. And she allowed one of her students to make a poster because her country was America. And on her poster, she's supposed to talk about things that, are unique to the US and traditions. And on her traditions poster, mind you, Catherine is a Texan, and she's gay, by the way, might I also add. So she's not some type of, Republican or whatever, but her parents are. In fact, her parents are racist, as she said herself. They're hardcore Christians, for lack of a better, term or word, whatever. So yeah, like they were talking about how it's traditions. It's a tradition for people to be fat, basically. Like it was all type of like crazy stuff like that. And she thought that it was so funny and cute, but she actually hung it up on the door. And I'm like, all right, you have a class of like 20 plus kids out of all of the countries, all of the different, things that people wrote about. Not only did you not correct the student, you hang it up on your door, like seriously. So again, from one perspective, I can laugh at it because it's like, okay, like this is ignorant. But look at this in another perspective. What if I did a poster or another student did a poster that said a tradition in Japan is committing suicide or molesting girls on the train? Would that be socially acceptable or okay? No. So why is shooting Black people or being fat, overeating, etc., having a gun, like how I understand from a child's perspective, they don't know any better. They've been taught ignorance from watching TV and from their parent. But now you are the foreigner. This is your opportunity to educate this child, and you don't do it. Instead, you make light of the situation, you laugh at it, and you don't correct it. And this is exactly why racism still exists in the US today. A lot of people don't realize that we're not saying that your parents necessarily walking around with bed sheets over their head anymore, but rather your parents have taught you racist things, such as being fearful of Black people and locking your door and holding your bag and don't go to this area, like these type of things. And so while they might not be racist or prejudiced at all, don't have a racist bone in their body, they've taught you racist things. You don't even realize it. Same thing goes for the hiring process. And so, again, this is why we're saying that it's an unconscious decision. Like you don't realize it, but you literally have a racist bias for the average person. Even as a Black person, some of us do, especially if you weren't raised in a bad neighborhood. You have to unlearn stuff. So, not going to get dragged off into that. This video staying on topic about Japan. But yeah, like I was just amazed. So I'm thinking like, okay, for a lot of these people, you've been living in Japan for a long time, possibly even longer than myself. And your stance on dual citizenship is a matter of it, being patriotic or not being patriotic and loving Japan or not loving Japan. And so the part that really got me was there was a Japanese person that had replied to what I believe was a Black person. They had, one of those fake accounts where they didn't have their actual face being shown. It was like just random pictures of other, Black celebrities or whatever, which led me to believe this might be a Black person or Black public figures, I should say. And so, yeah, like this guy who was either Japanese or pretending to be Japanese, either way it goes, doesn't matter. And he basically was patting Japan on the back and was saying that, Japan doesn't need dual citizenship. The reason why you came here is because Japanese people are basically so perfect. And Japan, you like Japanese culture, you like Japanese this, that, and the other. That's why you're here. And I'm going to read the comment to you in a second so that everything makes sense. But this is the reason why I do not make videos kissing Japan's ass. And it's not just one person, but rather it's a lot of people that feel this way. If you've ever interviewed for a job in Japan, one of the first questions that you've been asked is, why do you want to come to Japan? Why did you come to Japan? What do you like about Japan? What? What type of crap is that? And so again, as an American, at first it seems innocent, especially if you're new to Japan. You don't think anything of it. It's a normal question. Of course, you probably want to know, hey, where are you from? Why did you choose here? But as I've said before, put the shoe on the other foot. Imagine how obnoxious, how nationalistic that would sound as an American if every time I meet an Asian person, I say to them, so yeah, why did you choose, the US? Why did you come to America? And they say, oh, I wanted to go to school here. I'm going to UCLA. Okay, but why America? Why not college in Japan? Oh, because, there's better schools here, whatever. Do you like white guys? Do you like, big black dicks? Asian guys have small penises, right? It's because we have Hollywood, right? We have the best music, best movies. You like our Broadway, right? Yeah, American food is great. We have big sizes and everything. We have so many big, huge fashion stores. Our grocery stores are way better, right? We have cars. We have insulated apartments. Yeah, we don't live inside of little itty bitty houses and drive little cars. Yeah, Americans are friendly and outgoing. You like American people, right? We make better sexual partners, right? What? Like that's literally the reverse of everything that they say to you. You come to Japan, and if you don't compliment Japan enough when people ask you this, they throw in their own compliments. They say, yeah, you like Japan because it's so clean, right? And it's like, okay, Japan physically looks cleaner. And I've had to argue about this with black and white people in my comment sections that have been like, oh, Japan is clean, Japan is perfect. And it's like, bitch, are you blind? Have y'all ever seen a Japanese person clean something? Because when they clean, they use the same little inky dinky dirty rag for a month before they wash that hoe. And on top of that, they normally use the same rag, same mop, whatever, in every single room. They don't have different ones for different rooms. They don't replace, soap containers. They water down their cleaning supplies. You will literally see at the train station, the staff will use one rag, spritz it one time, and they will drag that hoe up and down the handrail, use that same rag to clean the mirrors, wipe the sinks, clean the toilet, everything. So it's like, it's cross-contamination. So sure, they're frequently cleaning it. And sure, really, it's not so much of cleaning it often, but Japanese people have been taught to clean up after themselves. So normally things aren't left around. So physically, yes, Japan looks way nicer than the US by far. It's rare to see a dirty bathroom. It's rare to see a dirty train station, etc. It's rare to see trash in the street. But what good does it do if, sure, there's not physically trash from the street and physically, craziness and rodents everywhere, although I have seen that before. But it's dirty, it's contaminated. You wouldn't want to put your hands on this stuff. And there's no soap in bathrooms. There's no hot water. It's not just one place. Everywhere is like that. People don't even wash their hands when they leave the bathroom. They don't wash their hands when dealing with food after taking out the trash. They don't wear gloves. And when you say this, it really upsets people. They don't want their image of Japan being so clean and so perfect, and Japanese people being so nice. And it's like, guys, bowing to someone is formality here. The pleases and thank yous and smiles in your face, it's their culture. It's not meant. It's the US equivalent of saying, oh, wow, everyone in New York was so friendly. Everyone said, how are you? They really care how I'm doing when I meet people. And it's like, who's going to tell them? That's just what we say in English, specifically in the US. After you meet someone, you say, hey, how are you? Or, hi, it's nice to meet you. How are you? Do we really mean it's nice to meet you? No, I probably wish I never saw you. But it's just what we say. Do I really care? How are you? Look, chick, if we not close, I don't want to hear about how you're sick and your dog died and you're actually a little depressed today and you're angry with your boyfriend. Like, I don't want to hear that. It's just what we say. It's just what we do. Same thing goes for holding open doors, etc. We've been taught to be kind. We've been taught that this is rude. But it don't mean that we like you. It don't mean that the same person that held that door open for you won't curse you out. So it's the same situation. Foreigners just have such low expectations for Japan and Japanese people. We want to believe it's this other alienated, special country, special little world. So I'm not going to break your hearts on that part of things, but that's all like a part of the same thing. So yeah, like let me just read the comment, tell you what this person said. Let's read the comment. I'm gonna go on my phone and find it. Yeah, because of course I hate that they do that. Let's see. Give me just a second. I'm sorry. But I literally like could not believe it because like this is exactly what I'm talking about. Oh, I'm stupid. Yeah, I took a screenshot of it. Let me just go to the screenshots instead of trying to search for it. Okay. So the article was titled Tokyo District Court Upholds Ban on Dual Citizenship. Okay. So this was the comment that I reacted to that I liked. And to my surprise, the comment that followed was by the fake Japanese person or the Japanese person that, said that, which more than likely was either some white guy or some radical Japanese person. I know, but there's a lot of people that feel that way. And that's why I want to address this. So the person that said the good thing that I agree with, I will quote their comment. The crowd that will say, but the Japanese authorities will turn a blind eye to those who are older and have 2 separate passports, miss the entire point. The system forces mixed heritage, dual nationality people to either choose one or technically be a lawbreaker, reinforcing the notion that foreigners break laws. And that really stuck at me so much because that last part was the part that I never really thought of. Not just the foreigners break laws part, that part too, but more so it's not a matter of how can I go around the law, but rather you're forcing me to break the law, if you get what I mean. Of course, we could find loopholes and ways to not do things, ways to go around doing things. But it's the principle of it. I should not have to do that. I should not have to lie. And people don't get it. So anyway, the first comment was by this guy who has a Japanese first and last name. I won't bother to give names. And again, I don't know if this is a real Japanese person or not. But this is what they said. Okay, then please tell me, then in all caps, why did got a Japanese partner? Why in the hell did you wanted to go to Japan and start a live? You know what? You don't have to tell me this. I know it because you love the Japanese culture, the people, and the rules. Because in the USA, people dying by the police. So the absolutely true is that you love Japan with all your heart, but you didn't understood anything about the Japanese culture and people before you got into it. And that's what you got, a F-hard life. Wow. Not done. Finish quote. You cannot change everything and make everything look racist because you choose this way to life. Accept your decision. Wow. Wow. And it goes back and forth from there. And it really just amazed me because, of course, people like the comment, but there's other comments similar to that. But I feel like that comment perfectly captured everything wrong with Japan right there. That's their mindset. If you don't like anything about Japan, whether it be racist, whether it be rules, whether it be rape, molestations, anything, the first thing that comes to their mind is what they've already fed you to say to them. No. You like Japan. Japan is perfect. It's better than your country. You don't understand our culture. That's the comeback to everything here. Interesting. These same people, though, they don't hold that same mindset for the US, though. Tell them that in the US. Try telling them that, and they won't feel that way. And what I mean by that is, okay, find a Japanese person on YouTube that's studying abroad, somebody that's in the US and sharing their experience, as a Japanese person living in America. Do you think that they have no critique and no criticism of the US? Do you think that they're in agreement with all of the rules and laws there? Do you think that they will be met with the same hate if they stand up for, speak on racism, issues that they have, versus a foreigner, Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, whatever you are in Japan? No. We accept it. We're open to critique and criticism. It's understandable. But try telling a Japanese person that you have problems with this place. Now, not only do they already tell themselves that you love Japan, that it's perfect, you've already admitted to it. I'm not saying you have to lie and pretend like you don't like Japan. But this is why you'll never see me like sitting here and like praising Japan and worship. Oh, Japanese people are so nice. They're so perfect. They're so whatever. You're feeding their ego. I would rather tell a white person something like that than I would a Japanese person at this point in my life. It's crazy. So, and again, let me also explain myself. As I've said earlier, when I say white, I'm not talking about the normal people. I'm talking about the crazy people. Because once again, of course, there's plenty of people inside the comments. The majority of them are white people, talking about how this is hard for them and having their own children that are, mixed race, etc., having to choose a citizenship. But a lot of people here, they are loving it. And even people with mixed race kids. Because in their mind, they came to Japan and they feel like Japan is the America that they don't have anymore. They get to be praised and worshiped as a white person. They get to be sought after, seen as beautiful. They get to be models and actors and singers and whatever they want to be. They have people taking their picture and stopping them and begging to date them and looking at them and practically dropping their bags and crashing their bikes when they pass by. They love that. And for them, Japan is what America no longer is. They don't have to deal with feminism anymore here. They can be sexual offenders. They can catcall, they can harass, they can stalk women, and it's welcomed and accepted. They can do whatever they want to here. And so the last thing that they want is for some, social justice warrior, as they call them, Democrat, or any decent person, so to speak, to come here and challenge that. They don't want that. They want it to stay this magical, mythical place where even in 2021, racism, sexism, all of that stuff is socially accepted here. And similar to in the US, you don't like it, you can leave. They follow the rules here. They don't mind. You treat a white person in Japan like a second-class citizen, they embrace it. They say, oh, it's understandable. I'm not Japanese. I'm not worthy. Oh, hell, Japan. That's what they act like here. They're totally okay with that. They don't dare challenge anything. And they hate people that do it. Because for them, it's like, why? Why would anybody want to do that? It's so perfect here. It's so great. Everything's perfect. And that's really like, it's such a scary thing to think of. And I don't understand how people don't realize this. But it's like, why are you defending someone that's insulting you? For any white person in that comment section who is okay with, single citizenship, after reading that comment, if that didn't make you feel disgusting for your stance, I don't know what else can, could, or should. Do you agree with the fact that basically your country is garbage and Japan is king and you're here because Japan is so much better than everywhere else in the world? And you don't understand Japanese culture if you question anything here. I'm sorry, but racism, sexism, assault, that is not culture. That's a problem. And it needs to be changed. And so, it's just so much more. I'm sorry, like my wording is not good on this. I can't even like think straight because it just made me so angry. But I'm just amazed. It's like, why do people do that? Why are people so against talking about issues that do happen here? Talking about issues in Japan does not make your home country better or perfect. But you're talking about where you are. And I'm sorry, let's be real. Japan needs much more work than the US does by far. There's more problems in life than gun violence. Their cops aren't killing people because they don't have guns. They probably would be if they did. Because, let's just say that the police here are pretty stupid. They have issues handling small situations. I haven't had any personal, legitimately bad experiences with the cops here yet, with emphasis on yet. But I've seen enough things not go the way that they should. And again, it's just so much deeper than just dual citizenship, than just that comment. But the reason why you get changed, the reason why things do change, is some people being bold and standing up and talking about it. And this brings me back to another comment that I had on my video that I did about, why Asian men don't like Black women. And I'm not going to get into that topic with you on here so much, but I wanted to bring up a comment that this Asian guy left. So this person was basically telling me that because allegedly him and his friends don't have anything against, Black women, and how, they like Black women, allegedly, from what this person said. I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, so does my fiance and all 700 of my ex-boyfriends. But that doesn't change what I said in my video. I've lived in Japan all of my adult life, and at this point, I've dated more Japanese guys than any other race of men, including Black. So yeah, this video is not about me. It's not about me not dating an Asian guy or me not liking Asian men. I'm speaking facts on why, things are viewed and seen the way that they are. And so as we got further into the conversation, writing Bible books back and forth to each other, one of his last comments actually said that he wishes people would stop talking about racism and basically that it would go away once we did. And I thought to myself, like, are you really that stupid? Like, I expect to hear that from a white person, don't get me wrong. But as an Asian person who's living in the US, to my knowledge, which thus you're a minority there, I would think you would know better. And I see that comment so much from white people here in Japan. And I get the concept of it. People think, oh, if you don't talk about it, it goes away. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Do you not realize? Because to my knowledge, he wasn't born in Japan. I think he said he was born, not Japan. He wasn't born in the US. He was born, I think, in China or Malaysia or something and moved to the US. So I explained to him, I was like, do you not realize it's because of my ancestors and brave white people that weren't racist, that fought for civil rights, that fought for you, basically? That's the reason why you're able to even live in my country and get a job? What? Do you think that happened from people just sitting down and saying, well, at least we're not slaves anymore. At least we're free. I guess we shouldn't complain about the Jim Crow law. We're free, right? It's better to get beat, killed, shot, stabbed, than be a slave. Of course, I agree with that statement 150,000%. But had Black people stopped right there and were satisfied with that, I wouldn't be here making this video right now. I probably wouldn't be in Japan. And for some of you, you'd probably be happy with that. And that's good for you, but not for me. It's thanks to my ancestors. It's thanks to brave and courageous people that stood up, fought, and spoke up that we have changes now today. Don't you dare tell me to not talk about crap. It's thanks to people being bold, standing up, and making statements that people now understand why backhanded compliments like, oh, you're cute for a Black girl, and you have good hair, and you must be mixed, and people touching your hair and touching your skin and saying ignorant, racist things to you as a Black person. It's the reason why we now know what not to say, what not to do. Because brave and bold people spoke up and said, hey, that's not cool. That's not a compliment. That's racist, it's rude, it's prejudiced, it's insulting. It's thanks to people speaking up that now these issues are being dealt with. Being silent is why it went on for so long. That's exactly what's wrong with Japan right now. Nobody talks about sexual assault. Nobody talks about racism. Nobody talks about their stance on Americans, their stance on Black people, white people, all of their stereotypes about other race people. It ain't just Black people. For the racist white people that love to comment down below, get back to your home country. You guys are the majority of foreigners. So when I talk about racism here, it's you dumbass, not me, your people. We're included in that mix too, but it's you I'm talking about. No changes happen. Are people taught how to be a racist in Japan? No, but their media gives those ideas. It encourages it because it doesn't combat it talking about what's wrong with stereotyping, what's wrong with generalizing people. I don't mean it in a way like saying, oh, most people like to eat pizza in Italy. No, no, no. I mean it in a way like these people are dangerous. These people are bad. These people are corrupt. These people are dirty. These people have AIDS. These people are fat. These same Japanese people that will do that to other countries, other races of people, will be in tears and protesting on YouTube if somebody does that to them. This whole pandemic situation shone a lot of light on it. I saw so many people on Twitter taking advantage of it, talking about, oh, I'm living in Germany, or I'm living in the US, or I'm in the UK, and people won't sit next to me on the train. People are avoiding me. They're saying that I have a Chinese virus, I have whatever. And it's like, oh, gee, I wonder how much support you showed to people during the whole Ebola crisis. You're probably avoiding African and Black people like the plague. And now that the shoe's on the other foot, now all of a sudden, you want us to feel sorry and sympathize for you. Interesting. It takes you going through it, you experiencing it. And they don't even connect the dots. They don't. In fact, the media in Japan was highlighting the attacks that were going on. I doubt they did that with Black people during the whole Ebola crisis. They don't care about you. They only care about themselves. You might be anti-complain about Japan. Don't complain about Japan. Japan's perfect. Go back. But they complain about your country, sweetheart. They complain about your race, your people. They dehumanize you. I watched a whole special on TV that was showing fat Americans, and all of them are white, by the way, for the white people that want to comment and, say their crap. This is you. So let me give you an example on you guys. Because normally when we talk about racism, we talk about, the students here referring to Black teachers as being gorillas or, monkeys or anything else. Let's talk about you guys. It was a whole show in Japanese where they were traveling around in the US, random countryside areas with spoiled fat white kids, like really big, obese, 200 plus pound, spoiled brats. And I'm not gonna lie, it was funny. I watched it and I couldn't help but I'm thinking like, now why would they put this on air? And of course, they have the Japanese people commenting and laughing over it. And I'm thinking to myself like, okay, this is the issue. They're not saying anything bad about Americans, but they're reinforcing the idea. Americans are fat. Americans are spoiled. Americans, they're crazy. They can't stop eating. They're really rude. They don't respect their parents, etc. What do you think somebody that has never met or interacted with an American person besides their ESL teacher, what do you think they're going to make out of that video? Let's put the shoe on the other foot. Do you think Japanese people would be okay with an American show where we travel to Japan and we show families in which, their children, their grown children are, adult alcoholics and, trained molesters, etc.? Would Japan be okay with that show? Do you think they would not complain about that? Okay, so why do we embrace negative stereotypes about us? But Japan doesn't want us to do that for them. This country doesn't even broadcast the suicides and other situations like that take place. And the excuse given is they don't want to highlight and bring attention to it, which I'll make another video on that in the future. I made an Instagram post a while ago. I think I actually deleted it or I hid it for the time being for the aesthetic of my page, in which I was talking about how I witnessed somebody commit suicide on my way to work right behind my back. Like the guy accidentally pushed into the girl next to me, which pushed me. I got angry for half a second before I heard the thump of him being on the tracks and getting hit by the train. He literally ran and jumped onto the train tracks with the intention of killing himself. They gave it no media attention whatsoever. Yahoo News reported it, and that was after me having to search for it on Twitter. That was it. Did not make the news. The only situation that made the news recently that I saw was there is a guy that killed himself at the train station, technically a mall right next to it, in Osaka. He jumped from the roof of the building, and on his way down, he accidentally ended up killing an innocent 19-year-old college student. This boy was a high school student. And that only made news because it had to. The guy splattered on the ground, knocked this girl out unconscious, ultimately leading to her death too. And it was in front of thousands and thousands of people in a public space where you don't expect a suicide that dramatic to take place off of a rooftop mall building in a busy common area of people to meet. This is like the go-to area in Osaka if you're meeting somebody, especially for the first time. You always meet at that place, at Hep 5. That was crazy. And I was just there the day before. So crazy. So anyway, yeah, so it just like amazes me. So okay, we're supposed to ignore all of the negative things in Japan. You can't talk about molestations, you can't talk about suicide, you can't talk about rape, you can't talk about domestic abuse and violence, you can't talk about power harassment, you can't talk about Japan being dirty, you can't talk about people being backstabbers and pretending to be polite and really being rude behind your back. You can't talk about all of the little white lies they tell, people pretending to be in a relationship with you, people using you for English, not really being your friend. Anything bad you could think about Japan, do not say it, because you need to go back to your home country. It's perfect here. It's all in your little Gaijin mind. That's exactly what people want you to believe and say to you. And so, like I said, the more I think about it, the more I see it. People like the fantasy, especially white people. They like the fantasy that Japan reminds them of what old America used to be acceptable like. It used to be okay to put on magazines. This is the person that you want to look like. You want to be the all-American, blonde-haired, blue-eyed princess. You want to be, stick thin, skinny. You want to look this way. And if you don't look this way, this isn't a matter of bashing people that are thin, then you're not human, you're not perfect, you need to change yourself, you're disgusting. White people love that because it works in their favor. And they don't mind being the butt of the joke, because at the end of the day, if people are laughing at you for being white, fat, loud, whatever, it makes money for you. When I meet people here, I tweeted about this recently. If you're not following me on Twitter, please do it at Comic95. But anyway, yeah, I tweeted this recently because I had somebody message me this recently on Instagram, in which they were telling me, oh, I want American friends or whatever. And they asked me if I was strong. They said that I seemed strong. And he even specifically said that he had the idea in his mind that Americans are strong. And when I was first hearing these comments, I didn't think anything of it. But I've gotten this so many times from being in Japan. And as I've gotten older, I understand it a lot better the longer I've been here, because I understand both culture and language-wise. So what they're really saying to you, translation, is you're an American, you're Black. You must be athletic. You must be able to drink a large amount of alcohol without getting drunk. You must be strong, macho, manly, basically. And they don't see anything wrong with that question. It's just a normal Japanese question to them. Can I flip that question in reverse and say, you're Japanese. I know you must be small in all places. Do you see the issue there? And don't get me wrong, because Japan is a majority, they don't find that insulting really either. In fact, most people actually openly apologize for having a small dick or for being short, or they'll express concern about that. I'm not kidding you, it's true. But just because they're okay with that as a majority does not make saying and believing ignorant things about other people acceptable. And again, for people that want to get upset, this includes white people. It's not just Black people. Let me tell you that. But again, it doesn't do any good if you understand language and you don't understand cultural dialect. This is so much harder, I think, for normal white people to understand to begin with, because being in Japan, you have to change your mindset. You have to think like a minority, because you are a minority here. You're no longer the majority like how you are in the US or in Europe. So things that might seem innocent to you as a white person are really backhanded compliments being here in Japan. People being fascinated by you being quiet, you being able to follow the rules, you speaking Japanese, those are all backhanded compliments. Them being intrigued, you eating, with chopsticks, it's a backhanded compliment. They're implying that, wow, I thought you couldn't do this because you're not me, basically. It's the same thing in the US. People compliment you for being articulate, well-spoken, etc. By you saying that to me, as somebody that's not Black, you're indirectly saying, I thought that you were going to speak Negro because of the race that you are. Especially people here from Chicago. It's like, you're from Chicago. Like, you don't sound like it. The hell is that supposed to mean? I have to use Ebonics to prove where I'm from. I can do that too, and I sometimes do use it. It's just not the way that I talk. I'm no token, I'm no special person for that. Get that idea out of your mind. And so again, I used to think that was a compliment. I was like, well, I do speak Japanese good, thanks. I do use my chopsticks well, thanks. So it really like it pains me, it kills, it makes me so upset that I see black people saying the same shit the white people do too, like in my comment sections, like being in full agreement with anything that people say about Japan. And again, my purpose in this video is not to say you have to pretend like you hate Japan or you have to pretend like Japan is bad because some people feel this way. No, no, no. It's rather to say when you all go around hardcore supporting everything about Japan, hardcore, fighting for every little thing about how perfect and wonderful, marvelous and great Japan is, and it's so much better than the US, and yeah, sure, this is bad Japan, but the US is worse. Every time you have to do that, you're literally feeding their egos, you're stroking it. When I see that, I look at the comment this way. This is another example that you're going to see as a bad example, but I see it as being perfect. This is how ignorant you sound. It's like as a black person saying, well, yeah, I don't know, like, I like black people hair, but white people hair is so much better. It's so much better than ours. Okay. In one sense, I understand what you mean. You're probably saying if you're anything like me, you prefer straight hair. I straighten my hair. My hair is curly. I'm even wearing hair extensions right now as I'm talking to you. But why can't I just say that I like my hair being straight? Do I need to kiss a white person's butt? Are white people the only people with straight hair? No. Is my hair bone straight right now? Nope. I actually fell asleep in this and that. It was curled. Do I need to put down where I'm from in order to praise where I am at? Can I not like straight hair, but also critique it too? I like my hair being straight, but I'm glad that I do have curly hair. It's more versatile. It looks better when I do updos than straight hair. It's cuter on kids. It looks better when it gets wet when you go to the beach. There are plenty of things I like about my curly hair. Naturally, as a human being, whatever you have, you always want the opposite. You get tired of it. Same thing goes to white people. White people that have straight hair normally want to curl their hair. They have curly hair, they want to straighten their hair. They have short hair, they want longer. You have long hair, you want short hair. It's life. You're skinny, you want to be thick. You're thick, you might want to be smaller. Whatever the case happens to be. You have big boobs, you want smaller ones. You have a big butt, you want a smaller one. You have a small butt, you want a bigger one. It's life. There's guys that are really short, wish they were tall. There's tall guys that feel self-conscious, wish they were shorter. It's life. It happens. So I could just go on like forever about that part of it. But again, this isn't a matter of saying you can't like Japan, can't like things about it. You have to lie to yourself and pretend like you don't. I do love Japan. I like lots of things about it. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend like Japan does not have issues. Because this type of stuff is problematic. You stroke their ego so much that they feel like they're invincible. They don't see anything wrong. And so now it's to the point where if a foreigner complains, it's like, well, look at your country. That's why you came here, because we're better. Try saying that to a Japanese person. Talk about the concentration camps back in California back in the day and tell them, well, you should be okay with being in a concentration camp. That's why you came here, because our country had more opportunities. It's better. Do you think they're going to be okay with that comment? Absolutely not. They can't take critique. They lose it over the conversation of comfort women. Kills them. Even the term comfort women. Sex slaves. Let's stop sugarcoating stuff for them to stroke their egos and make them happy. The same people that can't handle that conversation, that unfriended San Francisco as a sister city in Osaka, they have a whole museum over the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings. Mind you, as much as I do not care about racist white Americans, Japan technically started that war. They bombed Pearl Harbor. The US went too far using nuclear, energy or whatever, a nuclear bomb, nuking them. But had they not bombed Pearl Harbor, that probably would not have happened. And if they at least given up after the first one, the second one wouldn't have taken place. But is that how we remember history? No. We acknowledge it, we accept that it was wrong. Japan can't do that, though. They're not capable of doing that because we've pat them on the head so many times and told them how perfect they are and how sweet and innocent you are. Oh, Japan, nobody should ever harm you. You're so perfect. Do Japanese people see it that way? Nope. In their mind, they have the right to discuss and talk about these things. They have the right to have that museum. But does Korea? Does China? Does the Philippines? Vietnam? No. You talk about that, you're not our friend anymore. How dare you remember the past? They weren't slaves. They were prostitutes. They wanted it. They were compensated. They were whores. That's how they talk about it. As sick as that sounds, that's how they think. Anime, kawaii stuff, Japanese fashion, it's a distraction. It's a distraction from the reality that this country is evil. Japan was rooted on racism and evil thinking and stuff. That's just facts. People constantly label and think about, Germany when they talk about Nazis, etc. But Japan was right there with them. They escaped it, though, by taking this humble approach and being the victims of, the nuclear bombings and instead being the victims of everything, which they were. Do not get me wrong. That was evil. That was wrong. And those innocent people should not have lost their lives. But Japan was a very different place back then than it is today. By having Hello Kitty and Sanrio and things like that, now that's all we think of when we see Japan. We see this weird, sexually frustrated country that has an obsession with robots and video games and waifu pillows. That's what we think of when we see Japan. They did a great job. It was an excellent cover-up. And now we have people where if you talk about Japan being racist or xenophobic, as they like to call it, that's their cover-up. There's no racism here. There's xenophobic. I made a whole video on this that I still haven't published yet, but that's literally a synonym for racist guys. And I made a video talking about racist stuff here, and I had, I think, a white person comment saying, oh, there's nothing fancy about it. And it's like, dude, you do realize that that is a figure of speech, and that's not exactly what I meant. Fancy way of saying means another way of saying. In other words, a way of going around what something really is, a way of rephrasing something, not saying the truth. For example, if I say, he's not that bad looking, not the best looking, but it's okay, normal looking, or a decent person. That is a fancy way of saying you're ugly, you're hideous, without directly saying, dang, you ugly, or damn, you hideous. That's all it is. Okay, when you say xenophobic, xenophobia, that's all that is. It is a synonym for race. It's excused racism. By that standard, then the US doesn't have an issue with racism. Because let's be real, the majority of racist people would be considered as xenophobic and not racist by that definition. Because most people in the US that are white do not walk around picketing, and rioting, whatever, black people, whatever. But most of them have preconceived negative stereotypes, prejudiced thoughts about black people. They are the last choice to be hired. They don't want to rent to them, don't want to live next to you, etc. They probably even have black friends or have dated a black person. I remember reading an article or it was a comment from a man that was white who had adopted, I think, either one or two black sons. And it dawned on him that when he was walking with him, he had him switch sides or held him close or whatever because they were passing by another black person that appeared to be suspicious or dangerous to him. And when he thought about it, how can I have a black son and I'm basically being prejudiced or racist towards other black people? In his mind, he already had thought of and made up black people are dangerous. His son is black though, but that's not how he saw it. So I'm done with that. I'm done. Like I said, White people like Japan because it brings them back to the good old days when it was okay to be racist, it was okay to be sexist. Japan is old fashioned, where you have the man working, the woman staying at home. Her job is basically to have sex with you. You can cheat on her, you can do whatever you want to. People that have been watching too much porn, they think that a Japanese girl is going to be the submissive, suck my dick type of, wife, type of girlfriend, and they're going to be in for a surprise when she runs off with your kids, legally kidnaps them, and you can't do anything about it. They want to be Japanese so bad. They want to tell you how well they speak Japanese, how they know and understand everything. And it's like, while you're busy kissing Japan's butt and licking the dookie off of the toilet paper that they use, Japan is not having your back like that. They're appreciating your ignorance. You will never be seen as Japanese. It doesn't matter how much you like Japan, how much you like Japanese people. It doesn't matter if you give up your US citizenship. You're still not one of them. You're never going to be one of them. So I don't know why y'all be riding so hard for Japan. So it's whatever. And like I said, you don't have to hate your own country to like another country. You don't have to bash the US to appreciate Japan. You don't even have to compare the two. You also can be realistic. Like I said, I acknowledge the fact that, yeah, of course, Japanese people are more polite. You're less likely to get into a fight or argument with them over things like, pushing into somebody, bumping into them. But it does happen. A lot of the politeness that we see, that we brag about, oh, Japanese people are so nice, they're so perfect. It's just formality. Like saying, how are you? Holding the door open if somebody's close to us, not being a jerk. Letting somebody with fewer items cut us in line. It's not meant to be taken that deep, that seriously. Bowing is done to everyone, is taught at a young age. Nobody thinks anything of it. But as an American, for us in our mind, it's like, oh, you bowed for me. You worship me. I'm important to you. And Japanese people know how much we appreciate these little, small, stupid things that they do. We treat them like dogs. Something that a human could do, or babies, I should say, or both. Something that an adult or a human would do that we wouldn't care about because it's a baby or because it's an animal. It's like, wow, you said that? Wow, you did that? We're super impressed. I got something in my eye. So it just it irks me so much that people have such low standards, low expectations. And it kills me that people are so against judging this country when they do it to you all the time. And some of you are okay with that. Like if a Japanese person makes fun of, judges the US, foreigners will agree right with it. They'll be like, yeah, that's true. Yeah, Americans are so fat. Yeah, they're so stupid. They're so whatever. Yeah, I wish Americans were like how these people are. Do you not realize how much of an asswipe you sound, how stupid you sound? So it just it kills me so much. I'll never understand how or why people can honestly do that with a straight face. It baffles me. So I'm done. This video was not meant to, be specifically about dual citizenship, as you can tell, but rather to talk about, that was literally the idea of it, that in people's mind, there should be no question about it. It doesn't matter if you're mixed race. If you truly understand Japan and Japanese culture, you realize that it's better than any other country. You should be loyal to us. You only need one nationality, and we're better. You know we're better. That's why you're here. The decision is easy. Stop trying to bring your foreign mindset to Japan. We don't need you here. And it's not just coming from Japanese people. You get it from other foreigners, arguably even more so. Are all Japanese people bad, crazy, and like this? No. But a lot of them are, whether they do it publicly or in secret. A lot of the white people here, like I said, Japan is an escape for them. They're conservative, they're religious. They feel like the US has fallen apart, and not because of police brutality or anything like that that's been around forever, but more so rather, matter of fact that they like those things, and they're saddened to see that things are changing over time for the better. They want to be somewhere where they're idolized and worshipped. They want to be somewhere where things are old-fashioned, never changing. They like that. Japan is that place. Being in Japan is like being stuck in the 1940s or 1930s in the US. It literally operates that way. People use outdated electronics. People's way of thinking is outdated and old-fashioned. And again, While people can defend Japan, say, what's better with Japan, for literally anything you could say that's better here, I can name at least 5 US things to match back in response that are better in my country than in Japan. I'm here for the experience. I like the country. But let's not pretend like Japan is perfect, that it's above judgment, it's above critique. Let's not pretend like you can't have anything you want to say negative about a place if you're going to stay there. Japanese people have chosen to migrate to the US even more than they did back in the day, after the concentration camps. Should I say that to them too? Excuse my notification. Is that okay to say to them too? Can I tell them, well, don't complain about Asian representation on TV because you didn't have to come to California. You knew that the US was better than your garbage trash country of suicidal alcoholics, of losers, small dicks, short people, flat butts, and invisible titties, big wide faces, small hands, and little feet, people built like refrigerators. You knew that we had the better, sexier, more superior women, the taller, bigger dick guys. So don't complain about being mistreated here. What? That is literally what I see people in the comments saying. I see white guys, I see Asian people talking about Asian women's bodies being better and them not letting themselves go after having kids and this, that, and the other. And it's like, okay, but try getting her to suck your dick after baby number 2. Yeah. So whatever. Think and believe whatever you want to, but this is what I'm talking about. This is one example of many. When you're doing that, you are feeding these people to believe in those stupid stereotypes they have painted inside their mind, literally telling you that Japan is perfect. Because as I said before, I cannot tell you how many times after I tell people why I came here, if you don't go into great detail, they will follow up with, yeah, you like Japan because it's clean, right? Yeah, I know many foreigners like Japan because they like cosplay, they like anime, they like whatever. And it's like, Japan actually has the worst cosplay scene in the world. The US is a gazillion times better when it comes to anime conventions, etc. than Japan. Believe it or not. So that's whatever. I'm not going to get into that anymore. We're done. Went on my little rant. My point is, as I said, I got really dragged off and sidetracked and this, that, and the other. Just take away this. You can love Japan and you can judge Japan. You can like the US and you can judge the US. You can love both countries. There's things to like and to hate about both places. And that's okay. It's normal. It makes you human. What's not normal is saying that if you have anything bad to say, you need to get up and pack your bags and leave. Because if we had that mindset, women would not have any rights whatsoever. We would not have any foreigners, including your beloved Asian people in the US. And to be honest, maybe even countries like Japan, you probably wouldn't even be able to travel or visit to if it weren't for people speaking up, standing up, and fighting for your rights. That is why things like suicide, rape, sexual assault of any kind, molestations are even getting attention because people have decided to be whistleblowers and speak up and stand their ground and defend themselves instead of saying, well, it could be worse. Well, my country isn't as good as this. That's the reason why. So I'm done. Like I said, people that really feel that really believe that way, they're not going to be changed by what I have to say, but I wanted to put this out here because nobody else is going to do it. But this is why I said that. My goal on my channel was not to just bash Japan, tell you how horrible everything is here, but rather to give real insight on what it's really like here, instead of doing what everybody else does and making their whole channel just praise Japan. Look at how weird Japan is. Ooh, kawaii stuff. Ooh, whatever. That's fine. I was interested in that too before I came here. This channel is for people that really want to come to Japan and want to really know what it's like here. Once you've gotten past the whole, oh, Japan is so weird, it's so perfect phrase or phase. That's what this channel is for. The real stuff that nobody told me about. The stuff that nobody talks about. You can easily do a Google search or a YouTube search, and the first things you're going to see when you look it up is, look at this tiny apartment. Look at this weird Japanese food. Look at this waifu, this guy marrying this waifu pillow or, hologram, whatever. You're going to see all the weird anime, kawaii. Look at how tiny Japan is. Oh my God, they're so polite. Paper cranes. You're going to see all of that little stupid origami crap. Japanese food is so healthy. No, it's not. You're going to see all of that garbage crap. That's what you're going to see about Japan. You're not going to hear about the bad side of it. The only thing you even hear that's remotely close to that is when people talk about the assaults on trains. And that's really because it kind of stems from a fetish too. There's literally a whole porn genre around that topic. And that's a part of the weird Japan. That, and of course, you'll sometimes hear people talk about, what was I about to say? Oh, suicides. But you rarely hear about those two things. Those are the lesser talked about things. Let's focus on how clean and polite Japanese people are and how perfect it is here. Problem-free Japan. Let's talk about those things. And you'll also notice the people that make these videos, almost all of them have something in common. They're white. Wow, of course, right? People that have no idea what it's like. They can't think beyond themselves. They don't try to, they don't want to. And they want money. Because let's be real, you make a video like myself, these videos don't get views. They don't make me some serious bank or something. People don't want to hear no 3-hour rant on somebody talking about the real Japan, talking about the bad things, the dirty things, the secret things. People want to see that weird side. They want to see that weird food, that crazy stuff. They want to see that side of Japan. They want that. They don't want their little Gaijin dreams, their Japan dreams, to be shattered and bursted. They want to believe this is some anime video game dreamland. When you shine the light away from that and talk about real issues, it upsets people. This is not how they envision Japan. You tell people that Japan is actually not so cheap, they tell you, that's not true. I live in a 2x2 apartment in Tokyo. It's very cheap. It's way cheaper than my home country. Sweetheart, a normal person don't live in a place that small in Japan. You're underpaying in rent because you're not living in a normal place. That's like me living in a trailer park in Manhattan. How many people have a trailer in Manhattan? Nobody. I'm the exception to the rule. That's not normal. Living in a dorm is not normal. If that's what you're doing, then sure, everything's going to be cheap. You live by yourself, you don't have kids, and sure, groceries are cheap, especially when it's not your money paying for them, but you're using financial aid and student loans, or your parents got it covered for you. Sure, if you're just going to eat a rice ball for every meal, yeah, groceries are dirt cheap in Japan. Sure, you don't turn your AC on, yeah, electricity is dirt cheap in Japan. Y'all gotta come back for everything. So I'm done. Like I said, there's no talking to these real weeboos, the real hardcore, weeboos in Japan, the white people that love being a token here. You're wasting your time. It's a dead mission because this place will always be perfect. Japan is holy ground. It's sacred to people. This is their escape from reality. This is their bring me back to the old days. This is their, what do they call it? The little time portal thing where you go back, time capsule. I forgot the name of the word. The time machine. This is their time machine. They're traveling back in time, back to when things were simple and easy and racist and sexist and being a nationalist was okay. That's what Japan is for these people. That's what it is. And that's why they love it. And that's why they always will love it and will continue to do so. And unfortunately, there's Black people like this too. For them, they have this idea that Japan is an anime. And when you call it out for its crap, they don't like it. Black women get upset. They don't want to hear that, a lot of these guys are just fetishizing after them. In their mind, it's like, no, that's not true. I work with Asian people. My husband is Asian. Bitch, so do I. I ain't blind, though. I ain't even dark skinned. I can tell you how people think and treat them. You don't always have to speak for yourself and from your own personal experience. You can observe and talk to other people. I don't see why that's so hard for other people to do. A lot of what I talk about in my channel, on my videos, aren't necessarily from my own experience or my own take. I'm not dark skinned. I'm not obese. I can't relate to those things. But I'm not blind. I'm not stupid. I can ask people real questions and pick their mind. I can watch TV. I can see how Black people are portrayed and treated in the media. I don't have to look like you to understand what goes on for you. I don't have to be blinded by my relationship, my obsession, my love, my fetish, to the point where I cannot see and acknowledge that there's actually a problem with this. When I was a teenager, that was me. As an adult, absolutely not. I can see things clearly now. So many grown people cannot. So, whatever. Now I'm officially done. That's that. You want to argue, talk, add your 2 cents to the comments, go ahead. But this whole little tokenism thing that, racist white people have going on here, it's scary, it's weird, it's crazy. And you are literally feeding them. They love that. They love that. Tell them how great Japan is. It literally strokes their dick. They love it. They absolutely love hearing foreigners tell them why they like Japan, why they're living here. It doesn't matter how long you've been here. You'll always get asked that question. And again, you don't go into enough detail, they seem shocked. They already know what you're going to say. They know inside their mind. You're going to say, you like Japanese people because they're polite. You like Japan because it's clean, super toilets, anime, Japanese culture, tea ceremonies, food. Japan is so weird, so awesome, so whatever. And they use it against you and to defend Japan's stance on stuff. They really think they're better than everyone else. And some of you all love telling them that they are. Y'all love being a slave to Japan, so I can't relate. So I'm done. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, leave a comment down below. Let's talk, let's argue, I want to hear your opinions on it. And I want you to prove my point in the comment section by showing me that you are exactly what I was talking about in this video. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Comic95. I also have a Facebook page, and you can add me on Snapchat. The links to everything are down in the description below. Thank you so much for watching.